The NBA Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presented by Shady Rays. SGPN is teaming up with Shady Rays for Shady Mag. Get 50% off your Shady Rays using promo code SGPN and then go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/shady for your chance to win $500. We're also brought to you by Edge Boost. Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to get started today. And welcome, everybody, to the NBA Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Sunday afternoon, May 21st, and it is time to go through Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Celtics and the Heat. I'm your host, Scott Reichel, once again joined by Delonte Smith. Delonte, how's it going with you?
Yeah, pretty good. Ready to get into it. Hopefully we can bounce back from yesterday.
Yeah, bounce back's the right word. I got buried. I know you got buried. I think Munaf got buried. It was not a good day for the show. I'm just going to go on record and say that.
Right.
Not a good day for the Lakers either, as they officially went down 3-0. Not even the extender could save them, because now they're down 3-0. They lost their first home game of the postseason. The Lakers won in a couple of runs there, mostly in the late third, early fourth quarter. They took a lead for about 20 seconds, and then they got outscored immediately, gave up a double-digit run to nothing, basically, and the game was over at that point. So I'm going to start off with you. I have a couple of points to make about Ham's rotations, which I'm sure you were potentially going to touch upon, but I'll ask you what your takeaways were for the game yesterday.
Yeah, I just give credit to Malone for doing what a lot of people have, including, I think you also and myself, were saying we just got to get Aaron Gordon off the floor in crunch time and in certain situations when Ham goes to a certain lineup. So he did that. He also went away from KCP, who had a hot hand early on, and actually, late in that game, I think he hit a couple of key shots when the Lakers won that run.
He did, but KCP's main contribution was when Jokic was on the bench. It seemed like KCP kind of took over for
a bit. And he stuck with the Bruce Brown, Jeff Green lineup. I thought Jeff Green did a good job defensively also. I'm mostly going to just give credit to Denver for answering every call. Anything they started from the jump, the Lakers didn't have any effort, any energy. So I thought that Denver was just a better team from the jump. I mean, they jumped out on them early. They withstood some punches from the Lakers, but all in all, I thought the Lakers just looked pitiful down the stretch. And I won't go into the Ham stuff. I'll let you get into that. But yeah, just got to credit to Denver more so than, deflecting the credit away from them and bashing on the Lakers. But I thought Denver did a great job. I thought Malone was good with his rotations. I thought Porter played probably the best game I've ever seen him play overall.
He had what, six assists, I think?
Yeah, I thought it was maybe like 7 or 8, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was 6.
Okay, cool. Maybe
Michael Porter Jr. we're talking about. Those 6 felt like 8, but it was. I think it was 6.
Right. So I thought he did a great job whenever Joker was on the bench. So him being able to do certain things against that lineup, I thought was key in the series. And I thought he was to be a little bit more effective, but still, all in all, he played a great game. And I just hats off to Denver and Malone for what they did in that game specifically.
Yeah, it seems to me that the main storyline kind of shifted over the course of the game with regard to Denver, but it mostly started with Jamal Murray, who had 30 points in the first half. Then I thought Schroeder did a great job defensively. I know Murray didn't score in the entire third quarter. He had a couple of shots late, but he finished with 37. But Murray took over the game early on. The Lakers' coverage defensively was really just terrible on him the entire first half. Whether it was D'Angelo Russell or it was Vanderbilt, whoever they tried, it just didn't work. And they lost track of him constantly with off-ball action. And Murray had a lot of wide-open shots. Now, Murray also did make a bunch of difficult shots off the dribble, so I will give him credit there. But it did seem like the Lakers kept losing track of him when he had 20 points in the first quarter and a half. You figure you try to guard him, but I guess the Lakers thought it was optional. And then it kind of pivoted for Denver because Jokic was really not great in the first half. He was okay, didn't score that much, but it seemed like he was really deferring to Murray. And then Murray slowed down. The Lakers went on a run, and Jokic said, "Give me the damn ball. We're going to win this thing." And Jokic kind of carried them down the stretch. That was always my takeaway for it. So Jokic had a pretty good stat line. Didn't have a double-double, but his stat line was actually solid when you take into account how underwhelming the stat line was for the first quarter and a half or so. And he was also in foul trouble, which took away some playing time in the third quarter. But yeah, Jokic took over the game late, made all the right reads, and it seemed like the Lakers, after spending so much energy to actually take the 1-point lead, they benched LeBron for about 40 seconds, immediately gave up a 6-0 run on a couple turnovers. They brought LeBron back in, and then it didn't really change anything. But I understand the argument of benching LeBron for a breather every now and then because, he's still a lot older and you want to try to keep him fresh. But at that point, can you really bench LeBron when you're down 2-0? I know you're
Yeah,
trying to
no,
steal some minutes, but that's
right.
a little bit. I don't know if I agree with that one.
Yeah, I don't either. I thought whenever he went out, I was texting one of my friends and I was telling him like, look, LeBron, he's old, whatever. He got to go for the rest of the game. This was like the start of the fourth because he went out with what, like 10 minutes to go in the fourth, or maybe like 9.
I think it was like 9 or 8, and they were
Yeah,
trying to steal a couple minutes, but the
no,
Lakers had all the momentum. And
right,
then once he got taken out of the floor, as we've seen for the last really, I don't know, decade with LeBron, when
right,
he's off the floor, his teams get killed.
right.
It just felt
Yes,
like the wrong time to do it. I know
yeah,
LeBron is older and he does not have the same stamina that he used to, but in that situation, in a
don't care,
must-win game, I
don't
think
care.
LeBron's going to got to play every second of the fourth
Yeah,
quarter.
sorry, he got. I don't care about his foot, whatever. He got to play. It's a must-win game. Like you said, they took the momentum back with. I want to say that Reeves hit 2 free throws and then they turned it over twice, or
I think it was
and then they.
Hachimura hit the free throws.
There we
And
go. There we
then
go.
from
Rudy
what I
did.
remember, it was three-pointer turnover, three-pointer turnover,
Yeah,
and LeBron came back in the game.
right, right. I thought so. Yeah, man. I think that he's got a. That's Ham's fault, but then again, I've seen time after time where LeBron check himself into the game, so I'm not sure who to put that on, but you got to get him a rest a little bit towards the end of the third quarter. I would think you would go with maybe like a minute left in the third. That way, you still have the TV timeout, end of quarter timeout, whatever it is, and he's able to rest for additional 3 or 4 minutes. But taking him out in the midst of how well you were playing to start that fourth quarter, yeah, I thought it was a bad call also.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna save the Ham discussion for a second because I do want to just read off some of the stat lines for some of the players, which I didn't do before. I mentioned before Jamal Murray at 37. He had 30 in the first half. Joker ended up with 24, 6, and 8. Once again, not a great stat line for him, but when you remember how underwhelming his stat line was early on, you realize how dominant he was in the second half, especially the fourth quarter. KCP had 17 points. Michael Porter Jr. had 14 and 10, so another double-double for Porter. Bruce Brown had 15 off the bench. As for the Lakers, LeBron was okay. He had 23, 7, and 12 on 8 of 19 shooting. Congrats to him, though. He made 3 3-pointers. I'm proud of him. Besides that, Anthony Davis had 28 points and 18 rebounds. I thought AD looked good. He wasn't exactly great at finishing around the rim in the second half, but he was still solid, 28 and 18. He was the only guy who showed up with any energy in the entire first quarter, so he was trying his hardest out there. It just didn't really matter in the end. Reeves only had 10 shots, scored 23 points. I don't know how Reeves only attempted 10 shots.
No idea.
Hachimura had 13 and 6. And then you had the real story of the game, or the story that I've been trying to discuss for the last couple of games. D'Angelo Russell, who has been easily the least effective player for the Lakers in the entire series because his plus-minus is now past the -50 mark. He played 20 minutes yesterday. It felt like he played 35 because I thought that might have been 15 minutes too many. But Russell started the first quarter. Lakers got killed. Got benched in the second quarter. Lakers outscored Denver by 9. And then Russell started the third quarter again. And then he kind of hung around, though, in that third quarter. And then he started again in the fourth quarter. And I'm just wondering what is exactly happening here. And Russell was once again a -12. He was the second worst plus-minus on the team, tied with Davis, actually, for second worst. But Russell was 1 for 8, 1 for 6 from 3. He had a brutal turnover cross court to KCP, which got intercepted, which was really just a terrible read. It had Zach Wilson vibes on that pass. But yeah, Russell once again was really ineffective, and it seemed like Ham keeps trying to stick with him. You have any comments there? Because I've been talking about it for the whole series. I had the PRA under, and it got there easily at 17.5. Can he play at all in the series?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he can. But then again, I mean, Dennis, he did okay, but I mean, he still was getting like killed on the pick and roll with the switches with Murray. But then again, I don't know if that's totally his fault. I mean, he was getting killed by Murray. D'Lo was getting killed by Murray. They tried.
Well, to be fair to Schroeder, he was a lot better in the second half.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
the foul trouble was there for Schroeder, but he was constantly full court pressing Murray. But that's kind of my point. Even if Schroeder isn't the most effective, at least he's making life somewhat difficult for Murray at times.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like if Russell's going to go 1 for 8 and he doesn't guard anybody, and he's mostly going to be a standstill 3-point shooter because the ball's going to be in LeBron's hands most of the time, then what's the point?
Yeah, I thought he should have just put Beasley in. I mean, Beasley's not the best defender either, but I mean, maybe he can make a shot or two. I mean, Russell was just a net negative, not even being able to make a shot. And I was listening to the Ringer guys. I can't remember. Maybe it was Justin Verrier. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I think he was at the game and he was saying that I guess certain people within the Lakers organization was talking about they didn't want to pull D'Angelo Russell in case they won the game and they needed him, I guess, for a confidence
They were
thing.
afraid he was going to mentally check out of the
Yeah,
series if he was not in the
basically.
starting line.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not sure if you should even care about that in a must-win situation. But yeah, man, that's bad. He's been bad. There's no way around it. I mean, I haven't been the biggest D'Angelo Russell fan, but I haven't been the biggest critic. But definitely not looking good for him in this offseason. Or this postseason, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 2 points there. First of all, with D'Angelo Russell, I have been critical of him in the past. As a Nets fan, I watched him play with my team. They were a fun team that year. Russell, I thought, was very solid. He kind of rejuvenated his career, except for the fact that he still doesn't guard anybody, and he's still a high-volume, low-efficiency, I'd say, offensive player in general.
Yeah.
He has occasional microwave games, which we've seen before, but for the most part, when you're a streaky shooter and you also don't guard anybody, when your shot's not falling, you're really going to be a liability more often than not, which is why Russell's plus-minus or efficiency rating every year, his net rating, has been a negative basically his entire career. So it's not exactly surprising. But I know that I got into a little bit of beef with Timberwolves Twitter earlier this year because I criticized D'Angelo Russell for basically being an empty calorie scorer.
Yeah,
and Minnesota Timberwolves fans kind of came at me saying, how can you say that? He's been really good for a month. And a week later, he got traded for post-prime Mike Conley. That was my victory lap for the situation.
Good for a month.
So yeah, a week after that whole thing started, he got traded for Mike Conley. So I think I won that debate. But the last point I'm going to make, which is what you touched upon, Ham worried about the ego and the overall, I'd say, psyche of D'Angelo Russell by not pulling him from the starting lineup because he's afraid he's going to mentally check out of the series. On the bright side, you're one game away from nobody starting. So, you can really balance it out that way. But I'm going to ask you this, just simply put. I'm not picking the Lakers to come back from 3-0. It's never happened before. I'm not going to make a case for it. What I will ask you is, do you think the Lakers actually show up for Game 4?
Yeah, I think they do. I think they show up for Game 4, and then they get blasted in Game 5. Okay. Yeah, that's just as simple as I can put it. I mean, I don't see. But then again, I don't know if you watched the pressers last night. Very interesting wardrobe for AD and LeBron. I guess they thought they were going to win, so they wanted to match. Like same shirt vibes.
That's why I got to bring several pairs of clothing just in case,
Right. So yeah, I mean, LeBron was asked about like his confidence level, and he was like, "Well, I believe. I'm not sure about the other guys, but I believe."
There was some shade thrown.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I've never heard him speak into that. Like other than whenever he left to go back to Cleveland, and when he left Cleveland to go to Miami. So
some of that could be reverse psychology and maybe just some cryptic stuff there. But at the end of the day, I don't know what LeBron's supposed to say. They're down 3-0. He's never been down 3-0 outside of the finals before. So it is what it is. But yeah, LeBron, he was okay last night. I thought he was solid in the second quarter and third quarter. And it seemed like he ran out of gas in the fourth.
Yeah, he has first. He didn't do anything in the first. Like he was.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the stat lines are still good for LeBron. Of course, he's up there in years. I think it's pretty safe to say he can no longer take over a game by himself anymore.
Nope.
So
on either side.
With him not being able to do that, the team's kind of screwed. But anyway, we'll see what happens in Game 4. Now it's time to actually transition over into Game 3, where I don't know if hopefully or not, we're trying not to see two separate 3-0 series and the only two series left in the playoffs, so we'll see what happens. But before we actually get into the Heat and Celtics Game 3 preview, do want to talk about our sponsor. We are sponsored by Edge Boost. SGPN is excited to announce an exclusive early access partnership with Edge Boost, the world's first bet now, pay later Visa card. Similar to buy now, pay later programs like Affirm and Afterpay, Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest and pay back the advance over 4 equal weekly installments. That's right, 0% interest. Simply deposit funds into your account and Edge Boost will match the deposit so you can use 2 times the funds on any legal sports betting site. Edge currently offers up to $2,500 in advances as you build a repayment history. My Edge Boost double down play of the day is, I don't know. Schwartzman money line against Nakashima. I don't know. First play on my mind. Go to sportsgampodcast.com/edge to sign up today. That's sportsgampodcast.com/edge. Must be 21 or older to use. Only valid in legal gambling states. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast. Just finished recapping Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals right before the Lakers' funeral. Now it's time to get into the actual Eastern Conference Game 3. Starting off with the actual odds for this game, the Celtics are favored on the road, currently around 3.5 or 4, and the over-under is 214. I said when we previewed the overall series, the reason why the Celtics were this big of a favorite is because, according to power rankings, the Celtics will be favored in basically every game, and nothing's changed. I think even if Boston's down 3-0, they will still be favored in Game 4, which is why Miami was such a big underdog. I didn't say that I agreed with the odds, but that was kind of the argument. Boston, based on power rankings, we saw it in the Philly series. They were favored in an elimination Game 6. The metrics or whatever you want to talk about love Boston, but they don't account for bad coaching and not exactly idealized, I'd say, execution down the stretch. I'm going to ask you, Delonte, we know Boston has been underwhelming at home, and they've been good on the road this postseason. Having said that, Boston's been up double digits in each of the first 2 games. Yep. And they thrive in punting double-digit leads. Right. What are your thoughts on this game? Because Miami's been undefeated at home so far in the playoffs. We know Boston's had Miami on the ropes for the first 2 games, but they can never close it out. Do you think today's a different story?
Yeah, I think it's a different story. I'm not sure if the pressure has gotten to them as far as the home thing. I think they're 10 and 11 in their last 21 home games, if I'm not mistaken. And that's straight up, not against the spread. But they do play better on the road. They're 4-2 straight up and ATS on the road. 4-5 straight up and ATS at home. So there is a little bit of, dichotomy with the splits there. Now I guess statistics would show that, or history would show that, teams up 2-0 who lose at home, who win on the road are just like incredible. So the Heat are 17-0 all time when up 2-0 in the series. Boston's 1-9 when trailing 0-2. Teams are 4-21 all time when losing the first 2 games at home. So history not on Boston's side, but I think a lot of that Heat stuff has to do with, the LeBron years when they were just throttling everybody. Yeah. So not sure how much you want to look into that. It's obviously 2 different teams, but I mean, they've got to do 2 things better. They've got to keep them off the offensive glass. Boston, that is. They've got to keep Miami off the offensive glass. Miami's rebounding about 32% of their misses in the series so far. So Boston's got to be a little bit more physical. Keep Bam off the offensive glass. And even some of those little guys, like I think Caleb Martin's rebounding pretty well.
Strus has had some moments as well.
Yeah, Strus. So I think all those guys like gang rebound. Outside of Bam, it's no really dominant rebounder. I mean, Butler has the spots where he can get 7 or 8, but as a team, I think they're just outwilling Boston, and that can't happen in the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think they have to do a better job on the offensive glass, or keeping them off the offensive glass, and they got to continue to get to the rim. So they're converting at a high clip in both games, 80+% in each game as far as rim percentage. And I think they got to continue to attack. They get bored with it and they want to shoot a lot of threes, but I think they got to have a healthy dose of both. And another thing I want to add is about Boston's, ball protection. They're averaging about 15 turnovers per game, and Miami's averaging 21 points off turnovers in the series. So, I mean, if you notice, like during the Knicks series, they were killing. Miami was killing the Knicks off points off turnovers. So I think that's a steady dose of what you expect from the Miami Heat defense. So Boston can take care of the ball, and we've seen in stretches when they don't turn the ball over, like you said, they have the ability to build those double-digit leads. Now, as far as sustaining them, I think that has a lot to do with execution, like you said, and more so execution than coaching. I mean, I guess they might go hand in hand, but I would go probably 55-45 as far as the blame. But I think Boston gets it done here. I know it's got up a little bit from, I think it opened at 2.5 in some spots.
Yeah, money keeps pointing on Boston because it's an elimination game and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so I probably just laid a money line rather than a 4. I know that's if it's too much juice, I would just probably maybe.
I'd rather in-play it. You're assuming Boston's going to be up double digits at some point in this game.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so I'll play Boston minus the 4, but I'll probably be on the money line for a bigger bit, I guess.
I'm really torn on this one because I don't think Boston's going to get swept, But then again, I also didn't think they'd be down 2-0. So I don't know if it really matters what I think at this point. I initially had Boston in 7 when the series started. I thought that Miami would have moments in the series, and I thought eventually talent would reign supreme. And once again, Boston's had good moments at home in the first 2 games. They just can't close a game out to save their lives. So that's really just the problem that I have. So maybe I'd consider Boston first half potentially because I don't have to worry about them choking late in the game. But then again, Miami was leading at halftime in game 2. I feel like for this game, I'm mostly interested in player props because you're kind of hoping Tatum brings it. I don't know if Jaylen Brown's going to bring it. So that's a whole separate story. I know that we talked about it on the last show that he might have mentally checked out already. But Horford's still been terrible offensively. Robert Williams has been good. I don't think Williams has missed a shot in this entire series. Is he like 11 for 11?
Yeah, I think so, bro. I think he's just like making everything.
Having said that, though, he did play 23 minutes and he only had 3 rebounds. That kind of needs to step up. But when they're switching pick and roll and he's guarding Butler some of the time, that's not going to help. I thought Grant Williams was good, memes aside. Before he decided to get Jimmy Butler going, I thought he was having a pretty decent fourth quarter. And that's a concern because why is Grant Williams your microwave in the fourth quarter? Like somebody's going to need to kind of step up. But I mentioned it when we broke down game 2. You had Lowry, Kevin Love, and Cody Zeller play a combined 42 minutes. They scored a total of 2 points, and Miami still won the game.
And those 2 points were from one person.
It was from Cody Zeller of all people. But the point is, Lowry was a minus 21. You couldn't use him in the game, and I thought that Spoelstra made a good decision. There was a stretch there for like a 1-minute period where Lowry missed like 3 shots, and he had a foul, and Spoelstra's like, get off the court. Just pulled them immediately. And yet you saw the Celtics kind of stick with Grant Williams a bit too long, in my opinion, because Butler was torching him on the other end. But it's really difficult to fully break down a game in, game out basis because Boston's the better team on paper. But when you constantly lose because you're out coached, you're not actually the better team. It's really as simple as that. I feel
Miami's
like
got the best player too.
Yeah. So. But you're looking at it going, well, Tatum hasn't made a shot yet in the fourth quarter. And yes, he was still very solid in game 2 for the first 3 quarters. Brown was brutal the entire game, basically. But it does not seem like Mazzulla's even really tinkered with the main rotation because he's sticking with Horford playing a bunch of minutes every game. And I know Horford is one of your defensive anchors, and you want to make the case that he still has a lot of value on that end.
Don't care.
But at some point, you're going to have to realize Horford's giving you nothing in terms of floor space.
Yeah. I thought that was the biggest thing that he has to adjust. He has to take Horford off the floor. So he did do a good adjustment by taking Robert Williams and Al Horford off the floor at the same time because you can't have 2 non-scorers on the floor. And they were just putting him they were putting Al Horford in pick and rolls and just killing him, taking Rob away from the brim because Rob can't roam in the paint. He's better defensively when he can roam in the paint. But Bam's been hitting that, 14 to 16 foot jump shot. So he has to be respected from there. And then if they're playing small, like you said, they took Lowry off the floor. So they're playing with Caleb Martin, Strus, and Vincent on the floor. Those are 3 shooters. And for whatever reason, Caleb Martin's always open. I have no idea what the deal is with that, but he's always open. And they just don't respect his jumper, and he keeps knocking them down. So
I think ever since Caleb Martin hit that shot against Giannis in game 3 in the corner, his confidence has just never been higher in his entire career.
Yeah.
But yeah, Martin's been great. That's the thing, though. Even Duncan Robinson was great in game 2. And I liked his under 6.5 in game 1, and it cleared easily. He scored 0 points in 7 minutes.
Right.
So, Robinson gave them good minutes, but that's kind of what Spoelstra is so good at. He has a great gauge on his overall roster, and he can plug and play guys depending on feel, and he has a good feeling or hunch on which players are going to show up on which given day. And even Vincent. Vincent was brutal for 3 quarters in game 2, and he kept him in for the last couple minutes in the fourth quarter, and Vincent hit that big mid-range jumper to put them up 2 possessions in the final minute. So, yeah, Spoelstra just knows his roster very, very well, and it seems like Mazzulla doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And then, Mazzulla deserves a blame. I think some of those guys got to execute a lot better. I mean, especially down the stretch. I mean, and people think that it's all Mazzulla's fault, but I'm not sure if anybody watched Boston last year, but even with Ime, they were the same way. They were
the same way, but it does feel like whether it involves post-game press conferences or just in-game adjustments.
Oh, yeah, I'm with that. Yeah, I'm with that. Yeah.
The overall vibe around Mazzulla, I hate that buzzword because that basically means nothing, but the overall just feeling surrounding Mazzulla is that he's in over his head.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the main takeaway most people have had.
Yeah, and especially hardcore like Boston fans, they just I guess they feel like that he's not respected or whatever. But he does have to do a better job, especially like we talked about the Horford thing. I think he has to get him off the floor. And Grant Williams, I mean, he did have a stretch where he was actually playing good defense on Butler, but it's just nothing that you can do on Butler.
Yeah.
I mean, they tried Smart, nothing. They tried Brown, nothing. I mean, Tatum, nothing. So not technically all Grant Williams' fault. He was actually playing hard, getting rebounds. He had a stretch, like you said, where he scored a 3 and then 2 dunks, or a dunk and an
Yeah, and
assist.
he was trash talking Butler, and that was his Dylan Brooks moment. So we'll see if Boston gets rid of him. But the point is, I do have to point out that even before that little skirmish happened, at least he was playing with more passion than the rest of the team. That counts for something.
Better than Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah, but Grant Williams, whatever. You know, he is what it is. He should never trash talk again after he bricked those 2 free throws against Cleveland earlier this year. And then he had the situation in game 2. But he showed up with energy. I can't say the same about half the team. But once again, Boston has been in a good spot to be up 2-0. They just suck in the fourth quarter. It's really just the end of the story. But anyway, you have any other thoughts on the actual... So anyway, you mentioned who you have for the actual side. I think I'm going to lean to Miami. I know Boston is the, I'd say, common choice because, they're the 2 seed. They're not going to go down, 3-0. I'm not going to play that angle.
Right.
At the end of the day, I don't trust this team. I just don't trust Boston. And Miami, if you want to give me 4 points, if Boston wins this game by 3, I'm still happy. I don't think Miami's going to get run out at home. You can argue Boston brings it defensively, maybe of a lower scoring game, which is why this total is a bit low. But I do think at the end of the day, if you're going to give me the team that's much better in crunch time, and it's not even close, and the team that you're going to be potentially laying 4 with cannot hold the leads when up double digits, I'm not going to lay 4 with you on the road. I'm just not going to do it. So I might be wrong. I might take the bait. I'm going to lean to Miami. I feel like I have to. You're giving me an undefeated team at home in the actual bracket, not including the play-in game against Atlanta. An undefeated team at home in the bracket getting 4 points against a team that can't close. I feel like I have to take it on principle.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think Boston wins, but like you said, it might be 2 or 3 point win. So that's why I'm betting the money line personally, because I don't trust Boston with a lead.
I feel better about Boston first half. I said it before.
Yeah, I feel better about them early on, like first quarter, first half also. Thinking that they come up with a lot more energy. And I mean, the Heat at home have been incredible. But if you look at some of the guys who have played well on the road, like Vincent, he hasn't played well at home at all. I think he's only had like over 5 points once in
I think he might be in line for a decent game, though, because we've seen sometimes, maybe it was like Tatum in game 6, you just need to see one go in a big moment. And Vincent did hit that big shot, though, to put them up 2 possessions late. So maybe that carries over. I'm not expecting Lowry to have another great game in game 3.
Yeah, so
Love I think has been a non-factor entirely.
Yeah, he has.
So.
I think Mazzulla, he has to pull out everything he has in this game. I'm not sure what that consists of, but he has to do something to be able to get these guys in a position where they can actually close the game. I mean, throughout the game, they're fun. Like in certain stretches, they look like the team that the power rating says they are.
I wouldn't say the entire game because they blew a double-digit lead earlier in the game, but for the most part, there's at least some fluidity to what they're doing.
Right, and I think what's not being talked about is their defense. I mean, they're allowing the Heat to. I understand Jimmy's going to make tough shots, but you got to get those other guys under control. Duncan can't have 15. Martin had 20, 25?
25.
Yeah, he can't do that. You got to keep those guys.
Some of those were wide open.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Like, they're getting wide open looks. So I think the defense has to be better. Now, that has nothing to do with coaching. That has everything to do with effort. So I think they'll bring that, which is why I'm on them in this specific spot.
I get it. I'm just tired of trying to predict what kind of effort I'm going to get from the Celtics.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I mean, I don't blame anybody for betting Miami. I really don't.
Yeah, this is probably going to be one of those games that I don't have that much money on.
Right.
Maybe it's because the Lakers killed me yesterday, but no, just in general, it's really a difficult game to break down because on one hand, you're looking at the Heat and it looks obvious. But if I told you Boston gave good effort for once, for 45 minutes, they probably cover. So that's why it's pretty tricky to break down. But I'll ask you about the total. I'm going to lean to the under. I think that game 2 was pretty fortunate to go over. You had 58 points in the fourth quarter. You had some free throws at the end, which also helped push it over. But that landed 216. Miami's defense has been fine. It's gotten better as the series has gone on. Boston's defense hasn't exactly been great, but the pace was really slow, and neither team could really shoot that well from three in game two. Boston shot 28.6%, and Miami shot 34.6%. But in a must-win game for Boston, I can see some intensity being brought on that end, at least compared to what we've seen in the first two games.
Yeah.
I'm going to lean to the under.
Yeah, and I agree with you. If you like Miami, you got to like the under. If you like Boston, you got to like the over. I think that's pretty much correlated. So I like the over. I don't disagree with anything you're saying.
I don't know if I agree with that, because I feel like Boston defensively, if they're going to win, maybe they just lock down.
Well, I think that I don't disagree with the logic behind defensive effort, but I think offensively, if they want to, have success, they have to get out and run, and they have to be in transition to be able to do that. Now, 4 of the last 5 meetings have went over, including the first 2 of this series. The only game that didn't go over, it only missed by a point and a half, and I think it was exactly this total, 213.5 to 14-ish. So Boston's averaging 117 points per game on the road versus 113 points per game at home. Now, obviously, you got a bigger sample size at home than you do on the road because they've had more home games than not. And I think Miami's second unit is, they're coming in, they're giving them a lot of good minutes as we went over. And now at home where, guys like Love, Lowry, we mentioned Vincent, some of those guys are probably going to shoot the ball a little bit better than what they have in Boston. So I'm banking on that. I mean, Boston's defense can still be good and Miami can have success. So I'm thinking that it's along those lines. So if we can get to, if we can get both of these to 110, I mean, that's not really, that's not really hard to do. Even at Boston, if they get to 117, I mean, you only need like 100 from Miami. I don't think that's out of the, not saying that they're going to blow them out, but you get what I'm saying. Like as far as it's the point differential. So yeah, I think it's going to go over. I think both teams' offenses specifically will have success. Now, Boston's defense, like I said, it can be better, and Miami can still have success. So I think it'll go over here. But I don't disagree with your premise as far as the defensive effort and intensity being there for Boston.
Well, I appreciate that. But Tony's mentioning that there's money on the over, yet the total's dropped. So there is a bit of reversal line movement there. Keep an eye on it. You might see a decent amount of money coming in on the over potentially before the game, so we'll see. There have been some late total moves that I've noticed over the NBA playoffs, so keep an eye on it, and we'll see how that line moves. But as of right now, I'll lean to the under. But anything else you want to add, or should we move into player props?
Oh, no, we can get into the props. It's cool.
All right. So starting off with the player props, I'll go first on my favorite one. I got Jason Tatum, over 9.5 rebounds at -125. Simply put, he's been really good at rebounding. And with them playing Horford a bunch and Horford constantly getting either picked on and pick and roll or Rob Williams, you've had Tatum by default being in the paint to get rebounds. He had 13 last game. He's done very well rebounding this entire playoffs. And I believe he's had at least 11 rebounds in 4 of his last 5 games against Miami. So I do like the over 9.5. Tatum, once again, has played 40-plus minutes all the time. And you might argue that he needs more minutes in basically an elimination game because nobody's ever come back from 3-0.
Right.
Tatum played 42 minutes in game 2. Are you just penciling him in for like 45?
Yeah, I mean, I think if he has to, I think Mazzulla has to get away from Horford. So I think less Horford, more Tatum at the 5. If you have him at the 5 with Brogdon, Smart, Brown, and White, you got more shooters on the floor, more spacing, better defenders, on-ball defenders.
You can argue even Williams included, but the point is Williams will be dragged away from the paint anyway, so
right.
Should be
so it's a higher ceiling for him to get that. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, so that's my favorite prop. I was surprised that it was at 9.5 because he had 13 last game, but that's my favorite overall prop. It's Tatum rebounds. You can roast them all you want for the late game execution. That's not my problem. Just make sure you grab the ball when they miss shots. So I'm going to take that approach. Besides that, I'm also leaning to Lowry under for points. It is low. It's at 9.5, and I know that he was still very good in game 1. But Lowry has been very solid when he has multiple days off because he's older and he could use the extra rest. In one day off games, like with a one rest day in between, he really has not looked sharp. And once again, he only played like 17 minutes in game 2 because Spoelstra looked at him and said, you can't play today. Right. Like, you just don't have it. I think Vincent might be in line for a good game. Robinson had some good minutes, especially with off-ball action because Boston kept losing track of him on all these off-ball movement stuff. But I think Lowry could be limited for actual minutes. Maybe Kevin Love. I know his number's at 5.5, which is a bit annoying because that's only 2 3-pointers. But it feels like Love has not even been close to hitting the rim in the series. He was okay in game one, I guess. He hit that transition 3-pointer in the third quarter, I believe. But after that, he hasn't really done much. It's mostly just fading some of those older veteran guys on Miami's bench because it does feel like Miami has been catering more towards the younger role players as they should because Caleb Martin's been that good.
Yep. Yeah, I'm agreeing with that. And I think that, like, Spo does a good job of just like knowing when guys just don't have. I
Yeah,
noticed I know it's like small
it
things,
sounds
and
obvious,
sometimes
but it's a lot harder than you think.
right, and I think sometimes we give coaches a lot more credit than what's deserved for like small, simple things that even guys like us can look and see, and we don't know as much basketball as any of these coaches. So, but I think just knowing when your guys have it and don't have it, and who to play, when to play, I think that's like a big part of being a good coach, and Spo does a good job of that.
Yeah, and I think that's something Missoula can work on. But
Yeah.
still, those are kind of some of the props I was considering. If you want to go for Boston, there's a no chance I go near any Jaylen Brown prop besides maybe turnovers.
Oh,
It's the only prop I
maybe I can
consider.
yeah, maybe I can convince you. I got him over 23.5.
You do? You think he actually shows up today?
Yeah, I do. I think he does show up today. So he's been struggling in the series, no surprise. I mean, the Heat are able to, keep him guessing with switching the defenders. He's seeing like four defenders every like game. So like he's seeing Vincent, he's seeing Martin, he's seeing Butler, Struce. So I think that's taking a toll on him. So I think he has got some things to figure out, and I think he'll get that done here. So he's taking 44 shots and only has 38 points. So averaging about 19 per game on 38% shooting and 15% from deep. And a lot of that, he's been open. Like he's just been
Mhm.
missing a lot of those threes. Now I don't know if that has to do with his hand or what the deal is, but he's getting good looks. He's just missing. So I think if the Celtics, if they want to, even the series up, in which it starts today, he has to be a whole lot better and help out on the offensive end. So on the road in the playoffs, he's over this number only twice, but he's landed 23 in two other games. So he's right there. And he's, shot the ball well on the road, and I think he gets some shots to fall tonight. So I would expect a heavy dose of Jaylen today early on, and then that maybe preserves Tatum to put it on down the stretch. So I think that's part of the game plan to get Jaylen going early and have Jason finish him off per se.
Yeah, I see Aiden asking about Brogdon, and I was going to segue into Boston supporting cast.
Yep.
I feel like I'm very tempted by Derek White threes. He came out firing in game two. I thought
Yep.
he gave them some good minutes. Brogdon, I think Brogdon's been okay. I mean, I think he could have been a little bit better, but then again, nobody on Boston supporting cast has had insane games, but Brogdon did have 13 and 4 last game on 4 of 9 shooting. Only went 1 of 5 from 3, though.
Yeah,
He
I was
got
about
to
to
the
say
line
that.
4 times.
Yeah.
I don't mind Brogdon. I think Derek White could potentially get more minutes. I thought he looked really sharp in those 23 minutes he played in game two.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably go to him. He went 3 of 5 from 3. But if you think that Horford's going to play less and you're trying to think that Boston maybe goes smaller, I'm not saying they're going to put Tatum at the 5, but maybe they experiment and try it for a couple of minutes. I think Derek White might get more playing time. He was good last game.
Yeah, he was. He was. He's been shooting the ball well. Defensively, I think he has to be better, just like the rest of those guys. I mean, all second team defense, and he got to be able to slow somebody down. I mean, obviously Jalen. I'm not Jalen, but Jimmy's gonna do what he has to do. But you got to at least make it hard for him. And I think they've been underperforming on the defensive end with some of those other guys. So I think Brogdon will be on the floor more. Him, Smart. Like I think that lineup of Tatum, Smart, Brown, Brogdon, and White. I think that'll be a critical lineup, and I think they'll finish with that because it's a lot of spacing, it's a lot of shooting. As you mentioned, you like Tatum rebounds. I think he's more than capable of grabbing, 12 to 13 rebounds. You got to get Al Horford and Rob Williams off the floor in the crunch time because as good as Rob is defensively, I mean, you just can't have a non-scorer out there when the Heat go small and they're able to, be able to switch everything and off that pick and roll, they got shooters in the corners and in different spots. So I think that you're right with Brogdon being able to score more and White also. So I think those role players have a good game.
Yeah, I'd probably lean to those two. Smart, I'm not sure about.
Yeah, well, see, I like Smart too. I'll see if I can convince you on
I
him
was going to
also.
say, no, I'm
Yeah.
saying I'm not sure if I can go to the window with Smart, Brogdon, and White.
Oh,
So
yeah. Okay, I get you.
that's why I guess I kind of dislike Smart's props the most of those three. But you can really, you can make a case for Smart. But
Yeah,
I think
I'll
that's
make
kind
it.
of going to wrap it up for the props that I have. You have anything else that you are tempted by? I'm considering maybe a Duncan Robinson under because I think his numbers might be inflated after scoring 15 last game.
What
He
is
scored
it?
15. Let me pull that up quickly.
It
He
should be
scored
like
15
six.
points in 21 minutes.
It should be like 6.5, 7. I'm assuming.
I think it's going to be higher. That's my point. It was 6.5 in game one. He scored 0. Then
Yeah,
he
I went
scored
under in that.
15.
Yeah,
So if it's anything that involves him not hitting 3 3-pointers, I'll take it.
yeah, that's fair.
Because I do think that Boston, whenever Robinson's on the court, you should just go at him.
Yeah.
Offensively, because we know that Robinson can't guard anybody. But they really did a bad job of keeping track of him. He's one of the guys you kind of have to keep track of. And I do think as a result, you might find a pretty nice spot to potentially fade Robinson, except he's at 5.5 again, so I can't do it. The magic number was 6.5. I didn't even get 6.5. So I can't even fade Robinson, which is very unfortunate. Do you want to make a case for maybe Robert Williams over 7.5?
I mean, I kind of do, but I can see it going either way because we mentioned about them not going to him late in games, so he has to get it early. Like if he doesn't get it within the first, that first set where he's on the floor with those starters, and then coming off in the second half, because in the second half he didn't start the game. They started Derek White over him, so I'm kind of iffy on going with Robert Williams. I might go with his like points and rebounds. Thinking that you mentioned he only had 3 rebounds, so I think he'll be more active on the boards. And I mentioned early on that Miami's been killing them on the offensive rebounding rate, rebounding 32% of the misses. So I think maybe points and rebounds is a go versus just points overall.
Do you want to blindly go back to Bam rebounds?
You know what? I'm a Bam guy. I think I've made that known. I don't specifically like or particularly like him in this game. I don't know why. I don't really have any
Because he
data
was so
backing
good in
that up.
game 2, you're assuming Boston's going to game plan him out.
Yeah,
right?
I'm thinking that they have I'm thinking that small lineup really, if Mazzulla goes to it, I'm thinking that it really hurts Bam because he'll have to be able to guard more because they'll probably put him in pick and roll if he's the only big on the floor. So I think he'll pretty much put that much energy on the defensive end, so he might not be able to be to the rim. Similar to what you said about Rob Williams' rebounds, he was being away from the rim. I think Bam will be away from the rim a lot more than what he was in the first 2 games.
Yeah, I was kind of just wondering because if Boston does go smaller, in theory, that could help or hurt Bam for rebounding because he'll be pulled away from the basket, but he has less size to deal with on the interior. That's kind of why I was wondering. But do you have any other props you want to mention, or should we just move on?
I got one, but it's my lock, so I'll just save it for that.
Okay, cool. So we're not going to spoil your favorite play, so to speak. By the way, Reggie, I see Jimmy Butler over half a 3. It's at like minus 185. So sure, I don't mind it, but it's 185, so I'm not going to give that out.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I would just try to find a 1. If you find a 1, I'm pretty sure it's less juice.
I'm trying to think if you could even find whole number props.
I think
DraftKings. I've seen a whole number prop in a while.
I think DraftKings had. Well, you can go 1+, or does it have to be in the
same thing as a half? Because 1 counts as a win.
I guess. Yeah, you're right. That's
fine. I know I'm right. But yeah, so I'd consider the over there, of course. But once again, it's minus 185. So I'm not going to make a strong argument for or against it. But
he's been shooting a lot more.
I was going to say, if you want to throw it in a parlay, then have fun. But I'm not going to straight bet it at minus 185. But you have anything else, or should we just wrap it up?
No, we can wrap it up.
Cool. So that's going to do it for the actual preview for Game 3. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. But before I actually do that, I want to talk about Shady Rays. Shady Rays is teaming up with SGPN for Shady May. Not only do you get an amazing 50% off deal, but you also have a chance to win $500. Shady Rays has durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's not all. They also offer the most insane protection all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on the first day, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after purchase. If you don't love them, you can return them and exchange them for a new pair, and you have up to 30 days to return them for free. No risk when you shop with Shady Rays. They always have your back. And for international listeners, Shady Rays has you covered with shipping to Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. Go to shadyrays.com and use the code SGPN for 50% off 2 pairs of Polarized sunglasses. Then take your receipt to sportsgampockets.com/shady for your chance to win the $500 Shady May contest. Welcome back, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Celtics and the Heat. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. Delonte, I'm going to let you go first. What is your lock for the show?
All right, so with the lock, I'm going to go with a player prop. I'm going with probably my favorite one. That it's been a while since I've had a one that I like this big, but I like Smart over 18.5 points and assists. So he struggled in game 2. So I'm not sure if that has to do with the injury or his, unwillingness to shoot the ball.
I never thought I'd have to tell Marcus Smart to not to shoot the ball more,
Right, but if you've watched, he's passed up several open looks, and he's only averaging about 6 field goal attempts in the series. And that's despite his poor play in game 2, he's still averaging 17 points and assists in the series, and that's with him being less aggressive offensively. So I think on the road he's been incredible. Well, I know for a fact on the road he's been incredible, going over this number 5 of the 6 games that they've had on the road, and he landed 18 in the other game. So in those 6 road games, he's averaging 26.1 points and assists. So I think he has a great floor game, similar to what he had in game 1. And I think he has to. I think he has to be able to distribute. That takes off some of the load for Tatum and Brown as far as creating for themselves. So I think he has about a 17-7 type game. He could have 18 and 10. So I'm looking forward to Marcus Smart having a big game. For the dog, I'm going to go with Jaylen Brown, 30-plus points at plus 240. I mentioned it earlier about Jaylen Brown, so I won't go into it. But I think he has a good game. I think they go to him early and often, and they let Tatum finish him off at the end.
All right. So for my lock, I mentioned it before. It was my favorite player prop. I'm taking Tatum over 9.5 rebounds. The number just feels too short, simply put. No matter how often he struggles with shooting in the fourth quarter, his rebounding numbers are still solid. Hit 13 last game. He's had at least 11 and 4 of his last 5 games against Miami. We also think that maybe you see less Horford and Rob Williams, so you might see Tatum have to rebound more. And Boston did get out-rebounded by 10 in Game 2, so I can see a more concerted effort on the actual glass by Boston, and in turn, I think that's going to imply Tatum getting more boards. So give me the over 9.5 for Tatum rebounds at minus 125 as my lock. And for my dog, what do I want to do with this one? Because I was tempted by maybe Bam double-double, but unfortunately it's a not plus price, so I can't do it. I don't know if I want to take Bam block or not, because I don't think he's had one in the series. A couple of options here. I'm trying to think of what I want to go about for this one. I'm trying to get creative with this one.
Yeah, no, that's what I was trying to do, but I just ran out of time. I was like, I like Jaylen today, so I'm just going to go with the 30-plus.
You know what? All right, cool. I'm going to go for a double Tatum prop here. I'm going to go with Tatum to be the leading 3-point maker today at plus 250. The volume's been there, and I do think based on that, he should have a good opportunity. Tatum only made 3 threes last game, but he attempted 10. Jaylen Brown attempted 7. Martin attempted 7. So Tatum had 3 more attempts than anybody else on the court. And I feel like for these type of props, it's all about volume anyway. And we know Tatum's going to have the ball in his hands all the time. So I do think that Tatum 3 points, or to lead the game in 3-pointers, makes sense based on the volume he's getting. Now, he could be shooting better. Maybe Tatum goes nuts. I know he only attempted 3 threes in game 1, which is a little bit bizarre. But I do think that the props for Tatum for assists are a bit iffy because he had 8 in game 2 and he had 1 in game 1. But I'm going to go with the volume, and hopefully he makes a couple. Give me Tatum to lead the game in 3-pointers at plus 250.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually.
But I like the price for that. That feels a little bit, because the second lowest odds are Strus. It's not even Martin.
Right, and Strus is not. I mean, those Miami Heat guys, they're not gonna just be high volume shooters because the ball's gonna be in Jimmy's hands for the most part.
And they have so many guys on Miami that are just gonna alternate for role players.
Right, so they could attempt only 4 or 5 each.
Yeah. So if Tatum hits 4 of them, you might be good.
Yeah, I think he's in line to hit 4 or 5.
Yeah. Well, if he attempts 10 again, I hope he hits 4. But that's gonna wrap it up for the lock and dog picks. So Delonte, once again, he ended up having, for his lock, he's a Marcus Smart fan for this game. And for his dog, he thinks that Jaylen Brown's going to show up for once. And I have double Tatum props. If Tatum lays an egg, I'm screwed. So we'll see what happens. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode. We'll be back once again tomorrow in some form or another. Delonte, let people know where they could find you.
At XX, Delonte XX on Twitter. I'm there talking a lot of basketball, a lot of game analysis. So yeah, man, I can be found there, and probably have an article or something coming out this week, like a best article or something to look forward to. So
As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Racial Radio. You can find me on the NBA show, obviously, the WNBA show. I know some people have been waiting for the WNBA
Yeah, I
episodes,
was just going to ask you
but
about that.
yeah, unfortunately for us, we were supposed to do a couple episodes this weekend, but the books take about 3 years to post lines, which is extremely annoying because there are no back-to-backs at the moment. So you can just post the lines immediately, but they just won't do it. So we keep trying to do episodes at like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Realistically, we're probably going to have to start doing it in the early morning because we can't keep waiting for no lines to be out. It's just extremely frustrating. So the plan moving forward will probably involve morning WNBA episodes. So keep an eye out for those. Besides that, I got the tennis podcast, which is going to be churning out episodes. I got the French Open in about a week, which should be fun. But that's going to, other than that, though, you know where to find me. But that's going to wrap it up. Until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.